This is our July tutorial, and I'm really excited about this one. A lot of the stock for this one I photographed myself. We took pictures of my daughter in studio, and then I used some of the photos that I took in PEI in Canada, and I used those for this one as well. Here's what we're gonna use when we're editing this one. I've got the photos that I took care of my daughter in studio, and the background one in PEI that I took, along with some of our stock from Adobe Stock. All right, so let's get started. So the very first thing we want to do is create a new image, and we are going to just start dragging and dropping our stock into the image. So I'll start with my background that I took in PEI and just kind of place it where I think it's going to, where we want it to be. So just gonna resize that to fit and bring that up a little bit, and we'll just hit enter right there and just resize that a little bit more, right about there. And let's bring in the whales. So this one is a piece from Adobe Stock that I'm using. And we're just gonna bring those whales in to where we think we want those ones to be. So right about there. Okay, and our next piece of stock, we'll bring in my daughter that I took pictures of in the studio. And I'm just gonna try to select her out here. So I just made a copy of the background, and then I am going into the properties panel here, and I'm gonna say remove background. Excuse me. And we'll just see what that did here. So not the greatest. So let's just go back. I think I'll delete that. Just make a copy here, and I'm just gonna use my quick selection tool. Alright, so now we can just drag and drop her into our new one. And I'm just going to turn her into a smart object. So you right click and you say convert to a smart object. We'll hit Control T, and we're just going to flip her horizontally here. We can go Control T again to resize. We're just going to kind of tilt her up a little bit. The right perspective to the waves and the whales, for example. So we'll hit enter there. So let's bring the lantern in. Okay, so I need the handle on this part. So I'm just going to use my quick selection tool again. I'll just turn this to a smart object again. So right click, convert to smart object, Control T, and we're just going to flip that. Control T again to resize it. Just going to turn the opacity down so I can match it up better. And we'll just put a layer mask on this one, and I'm going to paint out a part of it. bit of the lantern from this one. So I'm just, again, going to use my quick selection tool to grab some of that. I don't need her again, so I'll just take that out. Turn that into a smart object again, convert to smart object, Control T to resize it. Looks like I accidentally still had some other stuff grabbed there. Okay, so right about right there. Alright, I'm going to worry about cleaning up all that later. I just want to get all my stock somewhat placed in here. Alright, so since the sun is kind of setting over in this direction, alright, so I'm going to bring in the underwater light. So I'm just going to drag and drop it on my image here. And like I said, since the sun is setting right in this direction, the light would be kind of shining under the water in that way. Control T and just kind of placing it right here-ish. Just kind of throwing that out. Alright, now I'm going to play around with the blending modes. Alright, I kind of like the hard light, but I'm going to bring the opacity down. So maybe like 40%. Okay. Put a layer mask on that one, and we're just going to kind of blend the top here. Oops. With a soft brush, and we'll put this at like 20%. Alright, something like that. Obviously we'll clean it up again a little bit later. Okay, now let's bring in our other staff here. Oh no, what's it called? Sail. About like that. Just drag and drop it over to our new picture. Again, we want it to be a smart object, so we'll convert to smart object, hit Control T, and we need it to be going the other direction, so flip horizontal. And just resize that to fit. I'm gonna bring it down to underneath my daughter. I like that. Alright, so clearly these whales need some color adjustments, so I'm going to put the color balance on it, and we're just going to right click that and clip it to the whales, and I'm just going to put some more yellow in it, and maybe a little bit more red. And let's do the same with this layer. So bring in that color balance, clip it down, and that. Okay, I'm also going to put a hue and saturation on this layer. Clip it down and just desaturate it. And we will also do that to the whales. Just desaturate that one. Just trying to match the color of this image to the whales underneath. Definitely want to desaturate all the cyan. Okay, let's put a brightness and contrast on there as well, and just bring the brightness down. And brightness and contrast. Just bring the brightness down. And what we could do is on the background as well to match them up more. We will put a color change on, a color balance on this one. Create a clipping mask, and we're actually going to add a little bit more of the cyan and blue to try to match them up a little. Pretty much both of these layers need to be darkened quite a bit, so I'm just going to go to my brightness and contrast and just clip that down. And I'm just going to darken that background there. Okay, and then the whales, I already had one on them, but I think I might darken it a little more. Okay, so now what we're going to do on this whale is put a layer mask, and I'm just going to get rid of this line here and just try to blend in the water so that this top surface is matching up with this top surface of the water. So we'll just use my black brush and make sure it's quite soft. And again, just at like 20% and just kind of blending as best you can to get rid of that line there. Alright, so let's work on, I think there's three more pieces of stock that we have to bring in. So I'm going to start with the stars. So we'll bring in our stars here. And I'm just going to press enter on that and change the blending mode here. Let's see, darken, no, too much. You know what? I think multiply was probably the right one, but we'll definitely lower that opacity on it. And I'm just going to go Control T, and we're going to resize. I'm going to unclip this and just resize it. Right about there. Okay, and we're gonna put this down to maybe 40%, so it's just kind of peeking out of these clouds here at the top, and put a layer mask on there, use that black brush and paint it out. So I'm gonna start at like a little bit higher, maybe around 50%. No, let's just do 100% because we don't want it at all on the water. Okay, and now I'm going to lower that. And just lower it again. Make my brush a bit bigger. And blend that in there. Okay. That looks good right there. And I still think that the underwater, maybe it's this one, still has way too much cyan in it, so I'm going to go back in and add more red and go to that hue and saturation and go into the cyans and just desaturate that again. Yeah, I think that worked a lot better. And on this one, I might just put a little color balance on there and add a little bit more cyan into the sky too to match that up. Okay, so next piece of stock we need to add would be, I'm just going to group this one, actually, out of stars. All right, so I need to add the lantern light in. And, oops, why did I? Maybe this will work. Let's just see. If we do hard light, that actually looks pretty good. So click on this, hit enter, Control T. I'm going to resize this lantern light to kind of match. Why are you not working? There we go. To match my other lantern. Okay, right about there, and paint, just kind of put a, I'm gonna put a layer mask on it, and then I'm gonna hit Control I to invert that layer mask, and then with my brush at 100% and hardness around 65, we're just gonna go and paint in. Where is my brush? There it is. It was just way too big. At 100%, I'm just gonna paint. Let's see what that looks like. Is that what I did with this one? Let me just go look at this again. I think so. I thought that's what I did, but maybe I put it on a different overlay or something. That one looks pretty good. Add another little paint layer over top of this one. And I'm just going to get a very soft brush, select the kind of brighter yellow, and we'll just brighten this yellow up. So to show you my color picker here, I grabbed this color from the lantern, and then I just kind of brightened it up to be more orange, I think. Because the color on her face Alright, so since we have so much movement with this sail behind her, she needs the movement in her hair as well, so I have this piece of stock here. It's not letting me bring it in because my Photoshop is saving. Okay, there should work now. There we go. Alright, so I have this selection here. I'm actually going to just make a copy, and let's just go remove background through the properties panel here. Alright. I'm curious actually to see what the remove background on the new AI beta thing does. If it's better or worse, I have no idea. Or exactly the same, that could be. It looks pretty similar. Okay. Anyways, we'll just grab one of these layers here and drag and drop it in. And just need to convert this to a smart object. And just go Control T to transform this layer. And we need to flip it. So if you go to Edit, Transform, flip horizontal, and then we can start resizing it. We need this background underneath my daughter here. So we'll just hit Control T again. Make it fairly small. So like right about there. Okay, and then we're gonna rename this to be hair. And put a color balance on it.
1 second.
Put a color balance on this. Clip it down. So we want to right click and create a clipping mask. And we're gonna add a little bit more yellow in there. And more red to match it to my daughter's hair. Let's go to the hair.
Oh, yeah.
And we just want to blend it into her hair a little bit. So I'm going to kind of blend that part right there in. Sorry, we want to put a layer mask on our subject and paint that off and blend it in to the hair behind her. And let's go back to that hair layer, and I'm just gonna make my brush smaller and get rid of this line here. Like that. And let's look at this color balance again here. I feel like still needs a little more yellow. Maybe it's red it needs. Yeah, a little bit more red. There we go. Okay, something like that. And as you can see, it's a little sharper than her. So we're gonna go to the hair layer and we're gonna filter blur, and then Gaussian blur. And we don't want it that much. Let's see what 0.2 does. 0.3. Let's put it at 0.3. Okay. Now, under our, over our whales, we're going to want to put a paint layer. I'm going to call this bubbles. And I'm gonna go to my bubble brushes, which I get a lot of brushes off of Brush Easy. So that's probably, let's see, bubble brushes. Let's try these little itty bitty bubbles. And let's put them at 100%, and we're gonna have them on white and just see what those look like. Just, you can resize them. We got a lot of repeating here, so I'm going to go to a different one and just add some more bubbles there. Maybe make them smaller and rotate them. So if you go to your bubble, sorry, not bubble, your brush settings, you can use this little wheel here to rotate your brush. So I'm gonna just have it go the opposite direction here and put some smaller bubbles in there. And we can easily just blur this as well. So we're gonna go filter blur, Gaussian blur, and we're gonna blur those bubbles. And I'm just gonna put the opacity down on them a little bit as well. And I might just put one more layer. So I have like a smaller bubble brush here, and I'm just gonna add a couple of these over top. I'm just going to blur them a little bit. And bring this blur down a bit. Maybe just put it at like 1. Yeah. Under her, we're gonna use brushes to add some splashes in there. So we'll go splash. There. Okay. So we're just gonna grab a couple of these splash brushes. We want our brush to be kind of on this lighter blue color. And you can also hit shift and then use your arrows to rotate your brushes. Actually, we want this brush to be over top. I'm just trying to find the right place for this one. There we go. And we'll add some more splashes here. I'm just going through some different brushes to add that splash. We're gonna make a little darker right here. Oh, not that dark. Let's find a different one. Maybe some of these little mist brushes. And shift, and I'm just gonna rotate this. There we go. Okay, so we got our splash brushes. Now, brushes typically end up being a lot sharper than the backgrounds, so we're gonna put another blur on this. Gaussian blur. And put it at 1 probably.
I'm going to wish them race.
What do you mean?
Daddy, you know, there's love to eat best, honey. Honey.
Bears love honey? Yeah, I know.
Bears love.
And I'm just going to actually put a brightness and contrast on this layer. I feel like I made it a little too bright. So I'm just going to darken that splash a little. Clone tool. I just want to see if I can get some of, okay, to do this we need to rasterize the layer. I just want to get some of this splash underneath here. So I'm just going to use my clone tool to just put it a little underneath. See what that looks like. So I didn't really need that layer, but let's go back to this. I want to see the difference. I feel like having that shadow under there looks a lot better, so I'm gonna leave that. Our splashes still look a little too dark, or too bright, I mean, so I'll just darken it up a bit. Okay, so for the sail, we have some cleaning up to do on that one. So I'm just going to use my brush, a normal brush. I'm going to make it a little more hard. And at 100% I want to just paint out this part. Okay, and then at like a much lighter opacity, like 20, and softer brush, I just want to blend. Oops, I have that on, doing that on the wrong layer again. So we'll just step back. We actually want to do this on my daughter's layer and just blend that in a bit. Okay, and then we gotta figure out where, is that the lantern? That's the lantern. Okay, so on the lantern layer, we have to do some tidying up here, just along this edge. So we need the opacity up again, and a harder brush. Just gonna paint this edge out. Okay. And just need to clean up right here. On this other layer. So just making sure we got all of this part cleaned up. Do the same on the next layer. I think it's just these two. Oh, that's on. So it's just going back and forth from each layer to clean this part up, since I've got like 3 layers to create the lantern here. On the sail, because the light is coming this way, there's going to be a little bit of a shadow on the sail, so I'm going to make a new paint layer just above the sail and right click and clip that to the sail here. Going to change the blending mode of this layer to multiply, and with a very light, maybe just 5% brush, there we go. Okay, I'm just gonna darken the sail just behind her here. Alright, something like that. And it will also have, well, it kind of looks a little bright already right there, so maybe that's okay. But I will add another paint layer, clip it down, put it to overlay, and with kind of this bright yellow tone, I'm just going to brighten just behind the lantern here. Okay, on my daughter's layer, I just want to add a bit of a shadow, so I'm going to create another paint layer, clipping mask. This is a shadow. Put this to multiply, and just behind these, what are they called, splashes, there's going to be a teeny bit of a shadow. So I'm just going to darken like here in the front. There we go. Okay, and then we're also going to want to add a highlight to her, so we'll create another paint layer. I clipped it down and I put the blending mode to overlay. This is going to be the highlight. And on her face, so I want to select this really kind of bright yellow. I want it to be a little brighter. We're going to paint a little brighter on her face. And in all of these, like, highlights, so just brightening up that part of her. So now I've got it flattened. Now I can go to my, oh, I don't have them up here right now. I need to go up to window and get my actions opened. Here we go. I like to use my lighten overall for that. And I'm just gonna bring the opacity down. Like maybe put it at like 10. Okay. And then we can do the light creamy, after each action you do have to flatten. So I'm just gonna play the creamy skin and go in and clean up her skin a bit. So I just paint it at 100% with a soft brush and just brighten up skin a bit. And we can put some blush on her cheeks. Okay. And then I'm just gonna go to, I like to use my Painterly vignette. So we'll just make this larger, and I start at 100%. It doesn't mean I always leave it that way. A lot of the time I'll bring it down and paint some of it out just to soften that a bit, and then you can also like lower the opacity a little if you want to, and we'll flatten that. And then I'm going to do my artistic dodge and burn brush It just kind of adds to like a painterly look. And the dodge is always going to be on the highlights and at about 5%. And what I'm going to do with this is just paint those highlights brighter. And then we'll go to the action, which is the artistic burn brush. Play that one. Hit continue. And then we're gonna just do kind of the same thing, but we're painting the shadows. Okay, so with this artisan finish, you've got 2 layers. You have the paint effect, you've got the sharpen detail, and we're going to use on the paint effect, we're going to paint it off at 100%, just on her features of her face. So we don't want the eyes and the nose and the mouth to, oops, I'm on the wrong brush, here we go. Make that smaller. So paint it off of her facial features. And it just makes everything kind of soft like a painting. And then if you need a bit more like things sharpened with detail, like if you want to sharpen her eyes even more, you can. Okay. Flatten that. And then the last thing I always like to do, sometimes I like to add like a matte on here. I'm gonna see what the deep matte looks like. Yeah, and we'll put it only at like 15%. Oops. Okay, and flatten, and then I'm going to play sharpen for print. Like that. And I might just bring this down to like 30. Flatten. Alright, and that is our finished July tutorial. I hope you guys really enjoyed this one. I'm looking forward to doing our August tutorial, which is going to be our little mermaid with her bubble fish friend. So I will see you in that tutorial. Bye guys!